Welcome to Sidelines, stories from the Oklahoma Sports Heritage Museum in Guthrie, Oklahoma. This 11-episode series highlights some of the most interesting tales connected to this gem of a museum, celebrating the rich history of professional and collegiate athletics in Oklahoma. Coach, we talked about a lot about the Native American history in sports in Oklahoma. So many examples that people can learn from your museum. Let's talk about the Harjo Indian Baseball Team.
Okay, as I was kind of researching this, I came up on this team called the Harjo Indian Baseball Team, and the name came from a family around the Seminole area, and Miss Harjo, had some oil money. The Seminoles had some oil money that was coming to them, similar to what took place up at the Osage area. And so she used some of that money in that grant or fund to start and fund this baseball team that her husband wanted to start. And so it was made up of Indian players, and they traveled around and played different teams, and they were really an outstanding baseball team and came out of Holdenville and the Seminole area. And after they got started, they got Jim Thorpe to come down and be the coach and play with them. There's a family that lives in the addition that we live here in Guthrie, out in South Guthrie. And I was walking the street there with my dog one day, and there was a car there that had Peoria Indians on it. And I said something about that and so forth, and they said that their granddad played on an Indian team. And I said, really? What was the name of it? And they said, the Harjo Indians. I said, well, I've got a picture of them at the museum. And so in this picture that we have, I found out there's, right here in Guthrie, people living, and Guy Foreman of the Peoria tribe, which came down out of Kansas, he's fourth from right behind Jim Thorpe. He's right there sitting. There's Guy Foreman. And he played on that team. And that team that year traveled all over the United States and played. They played against the Kansas City Monarchs and played over 187 games that summer.
Oh, wow.
And
it's a busy summer.
It was. And it was, and just, they had an old bus that they traveled in. I've seen a picture of it. We've got several pictures of the team. They had some warm-ups that they'd put on that had a chief on the front, and then the picture I had, they've got war bonnets on. But I've not ever been able to find one of the uniforms or one of the warm-ups. But as I read about them, I found out they had to turn their uniforms in to the Indian agent to get their check at the end of the year. So somewhere, I believe, in a box or boxes at some Indian agency, there are probably some Harjo Indian uniforms that they have just been put away or disposed of, and we would sure love to get one there. But again, this was another prime example of how Native Americans used their athletic ability to make some money and to go and play the game of baseball.
Really a significant piece of the history of baseball. And these guys were skilled athletes. Like I remember how they go through all these different tryouts just to be part of the team.
Yeah.
And then for them to travel the country as that team is a really cool piece of not just Oklahoma sports history, but the history of baseball in general.
That's right. And our history of baseball in Oklahoma is unbelievable. And then we just keep finding new things about it. But for Jim Thorpe to come back and play, he was on the East Coast for a while, and most people think of Jim Thorpe as Olympics and football, which he was outstanding in. But he played 10 years in the major leagues, and then came back down and played with Harjo and traveled the country with them. And so
he'd already come back and kicked the New York Giants' butt already in football, so he had to come back and do the same thing in baseball at this point.
That's right. And so again, that's part of our Native history for Oklahoma.
That's awesome. Thanks, Coach.
You bet.